What's up, my producer friends? It's David with another monsterproductions.com, and today we're going to talk about the 3 minor scales. All right, so before we get into the video, I do want to mention that I am going to leave timestamps in the description of this video as well as in the comments down below. So if you want to skip around for any reason, feel free to do that. Also, if you feel sort of confused about any of the terms that I'm saying in this video, chances are I've talked about it in my sort of introduction into music theory video, which I just released. I'll leave a link on the screen now, as well as in the description of this video for you. All right, so I think technically a better way to explain this or to think about this is we have our 1 major scale, and then we have our minor scale, and then we have a couple variations of that minor scale. And the reason for this actually dates all the way back to ancient Greece. Music was a really big part of ancient Greek culture, and that carried all the way up to modern times, where in our Western music theory, we use something called the modes, which is how pretty much all music was created back then. They had a modal way of making music. And I think a big reason for this was the type of instruments that they had in order to play music. But just so you're familiar with what modes are, there are 7 modes in Western music theory, which are basically based off of the notes of the scale. So the best way to look at this is if you have a keyboard or a piano, if we just pick any note and then play only white keys, each one of those is a different mode. So for example, if I start on A, that's our Aeolian mode, also our natural minor scale. Basically, what would happen is, let's say someone was writing a piece of music in G, which is Mixolydian mode. So what you would start seeing is maybe they would sharp a particular note like this. So they would sharp that F. So now instead of playing F, we're playing F sharp. And that may sound familiar to you because that's back to our major scale. So we started seeing the shift from a modal approach to making music to a tonal approach, which basically just means we're establishing a tonic, we're establishing a key, and then we're trying to stick within that key. Now, having said that, I mean, songs use modulation and use other scales within that key. So it's not like you have to pick one particular scale and stick to it throughout your entire piece of music. I think there is sort of this idea that you have to do that. That's not the case. But anyway, this was the new sort of approach to making music, which happened over probably a couple hundred years and sort of really started seeing it take place in the 17th century. Okay, so our Ionian mode, which starts on C, that's basically just a major scale. And this particular scale was fine the way it was. There weren't any variations that were needed. But our Aeolian mode, which starts on A, which is again our natural minor scale. This particular scale or mode left some room for improvement when it came to this tonal approach of making music. So what they did was they created a variation of the scale, which raises the 7th note. It's called a harmonic minor scale. It sounds like this. So we're raising the 7th, which instead of playing the G, we're now playing the G sharp. But sort of the awkward thing about this scale is the 6 to the 7th right here. This is what we call an augmented second. And the reason for that is there's 3 semitones in between. So there's a whole step and then a half step, which is just a little bit weird. And so they created another variation of the scale, which is called the melodic minor scale, which kind of solves that issue going up. So it sounds like this. So if you listen to this scale, it's like the first half of the scale is minor and the second half is major, but then we switch going back down to just our regular natural minor scale. So again, this is the melodic minor scale. All right, so what I've done is I've created a Google document here. I'm going to leave this in the description of this video if you guys want to download it. It's basically just a chart that shows you the series of whole steps and half steps for the major scale as well as the 3 minor scales. And you guys may want to download this and just use it as a reference for whatever reason while you're creating music. This stuff is pretty simple to understand if you have a keyboard and you have the ability to just play the scale out, but this chart might come in handy if you're just using the piano roll and you need to sort of see what's actually happening with your whole steps and your half steps. So basically for our natural minor scale, we have a whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. For our harmonic minor scale, we have a whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step plus half step. That's that augmented second that we were talking about. And then we have another half step. And then for our melodic minor scale, we have our whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. And then on the way back down, we revert back to our natural minor scale, which you can follow this going backwards to get that. All right, so let's look at some examples. So first of all, we're in the key of A minor. And I've created a very simple chord progression. This is like a chord progression that I would make for like a trap beat or something like that. And then I've created different melodies, and each melody is in a different minor scale. So I'll get to that in just a second, but real quick, the chord progression is literally just a one chord. So this is our A minor triad, and then we're going to our dominant seventh chord, which is our E major seventh chord. So this is our E major chord here. But you'll notice that's not really what I'm playing. I'm playing the E major seventh, but I'm not playing the, I'm leaving off the root note, the E note. So it just sounds like this. But it's still the E, it's still the dominant seventh chord. So this is the chord progression once again. So again, very simple chord progression. Now what I'm doing is, on this particular example, I'm using the harmonic minor scale to make a melody. And I'm gonna play the harmonic minor scale real quick, just so you can see. I'll play it in the octave that the melody's in, so that you can see sort of the overlap. So let's take a look. So again, this is that raised G sharp that we're talking about, that makes the difference between the harmonic and the natural minor. So now let's listen to the melody. So kind of a cool little melody there, kind of mysterious, dark vibes, I guess. And again, this melody is using our harmonic minor scale. All right, so this example is going to be using our melodic minor scale. Once again, I'm going to play the scale for you so you can hopefully see the overlap. We're really just focused on the going up part of the scale for this particular progression, as you can kind of see in this melody here. So let's take a listen. So hopefully you can hear that use of the F sharp and the G sharp here. That's using that melodic minor scale. And finally, we're going to be using our natural minor scale. Once again, our natural minor scale looks like this. And this is what it sounds like. So we can actually bring these two together. Now you're getting the full sort of example of how the melodic minor scale really works. We still have the same chord progression, but as we're going up, we're using that raised F sharp and G sharp. And then as we go back down, we're using just the regular F and G. So let's take a listen. Thanks for watching the video, guys. If you liked it, please go ahead, hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell notification. That's going to let you know anytime I release videos in the future. So I will definitely be continuing to do more music theory videos sometime in the future. So keep an eye out for that, and I will see you guys in the next video.